Are you an ADHD or scattered artist who's hoping to make progress with your art business this year? Have you tried planners and you like them and you like the idea behind them, but they're not quite working for what you want to do with your art and your art business? Well, today I am taking a look at a planner that promises to help me with some of those things. And maybe it'll help you guys with some of those things as well. So you guys know I have ADHD. You guys know I've tried a bunch of different planners. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I kind of vary based on what system I'm using, depending on the projects that I'm using. Sometimes it just needs to be a list. Sometimes it needs to be broken down day by day. I saw something that might or might not help me with this. It is a planner called the Maker's Toolkit, and I've been getting ads for it all over the place. Maybe you have too if you're also an artist and you use Instagram. I figured, why not give it a shot? I am hoping that it kind of helps you break down your goals. Maybe being a Maker's Toolkit, it may have planograms, or it may have like resources that are more geared towards makers rather than just kind of like generic planners. Like, you know how the Happy Planner makes planners for teachers and it's got resources in there that are more geared for teachers, or there's health management inserts, that sort of thing. They still haven't made one for crafters and makers and people who sell things online. So I'm kind of hoping that's the direction that this is going to go in. Now, I ordered this a while back. It took a while to ship, and then it came from the UK, so it took a while to arrive. And I'm not entirely sure what to expect. So, I got it wrong. It's the Maker's Yearbook, not the Maker's Toolkit. I think the Maker's Toolkit is probably more her website. A goal-setting workbook and planner for artists, makers, and handmade business owners. So you can see why I was like, okay, maybe this will work for me. It is shrink wrap, it is hardcover, it is spiral bound. The Maker's Yearbook is a goal-setting workbook and 2025 planner for artists, crafters, and handmade makers in business. It can help you to develop 3 really solid habits that will keep you motivated and on track as you build a successful business. 1, pursue one business goal per month and work out how you'll work on it, when you work on it, and what resources you'll need. Sounds good to me. 2, set yourself 3 most important tasks per day and decide what you're going to work on in any given moment, rather than being victim of circumstance, or worse still, other people's priorities. This has a matte hardcover. This is the yearbook for 2025. I believe this is like her 3rd year of doing this. I might be wrong though. I don't remember how much I paid for this, but I do have a recording of the purchase, so I will include that for you guys. It is kind of pricey. To be fair though, it is kind of a niche market product. It does say that we cannot reproduce this. That is fine. That's not my intention. My intention with this is to, a lot of artists are ADHD. A lot of artists struggle with organization. I am one of those artists. I want to see if this is going to be helpful for me and if it'll be helpful for you guys. When I was using my Happy Planner, I made a video about how much I liked my Happy Planner. So it's in that kind of vein, right? Of like, if I find something that really helps, then I will share it. My goal with this is November of 2024 when I'm starting this. My goal is to do this video here. We kind of flip through it, we kind of talk about it, and then I'm going to release that video and then work through this hopefully through 2025. Check back in with you guys in November of 2025 and spend the last month of that year sharing my experiences, going through it, that sort of thing, like kind of doing it more granularly, hopefully. And talking about whether or not the system worked for me or it didn't. I have ADHD. When I'm really using planners, I'm really using planners, and when I'm not using planners, I'm really not using planners. So I know that I may fall off. The goal is to pick myself back up. I also feel like my little art business, my comics, my illustration, my prose, all that kind of stuff, I feel like I've really stagnated business-wise since I got Sjogren's. So I'm hoping that having something like this will help me get myself into stores, will help me, you know, determine and prioritize which markets are good for me, what products are good for me, maybe figure out like marketing strategies, track that kind of stuff. This isn't supposed to be like a hold your hand, here's how to do marketing. I'm reading another book that's supposed to help with that. This is just a planner to help you sit down and plan these things. So that's kind of how I'm going to be judging it, whether it has space for those things, whether it asks me these questions, whether it gets me to think about what's working and what's not working, whether it has space for me to record certain analytics or to record sales where I can have it all there visually. Yes, you can do spreadsheets. Joseph does the spreadsheets for me, so that information is actually available for me. But sometimes it's just easier for me to have it in a book in front of my face. I just kind of grew up with planners, so that's a tool that has worked for me in the past. And I want to see how well this one might work for me as a small art business specifically. I did like the Happy Planner. I do think those are great as a generic planner. They have inserts for teachers, they have inserts for meal planning, they have inserts for budgeting. To my knowledge, they still don't have a small business, a small craft or handmade business insert, which would be really helpful for me. I think they also don't have a social media insert. So I'm kind of hoping that this will do what Happy Planner is not. It has spiral binding. I do have a punch with this kind of bind, like that allows you to make inserts. So I may be adding in stuff, kind of depends. I'm also going to link my Happy Planner videos. I am not saying, as an ADHD person, that if this works for me, it will 100% work for you. We're all built different. I'm also not saying if it doesn't work for me, unless there's like a real reason why, like it's missing something, it won't work for you either. I'm also not going to read through all of it for you guys. I'm having a high Sjogren's, like a flare up right now, and I'm having trouble breathing, but I did want to so if you hear me huffing and puffing, I'm okay. That's why. I have a disability. Hey, you know, I'm here, I'm showing up. Let's normalize that as much as we can. We exist. Anyway, I'm not going to read all of it. That's not even, there's a lot of text and it's not really my intention. There is kind of a getting started section, which I'm going to read on my own time. It does seem like there's like room to take notes at the end. Now, as an ADHD person, I wish the margins were bigger because I like to take notes in the margins, but it's not a deal killer. I use Post-it notes for that sort of thing. The paper is fine. I like the colors. I love colorful planners. It really kind of gets me motivated. It seems like we start off by thinking about how our 2024 went and kind of analyzing ourselves and what's working for us and not working for us. Over here, you know, a little bit more the same, although frankly, not enough room to write, honestly. I need a little bit more room to write. I don't have teeny tiny handwriting. I have, well, Sjogren's. I have hand disabilities as well, so I write kind of big. But I do like that they've included that. Here we're talking about sales and profits. We're talking about customers and followers. I like that we're like establishing, before we start our new year, we're establishing what our old year looked like so that we have a baseline for comparison, because it can be so easy to lose track of the progress you've made if you're like me and, you know, all the things that ADHD do. So it's helpful to like force you to look at things and put down real numbers and also talk about how you feel about these things. We can talk about our product range, although honestly, this is not enough space. Really need, especially for people like me who do a lot of different things. More space would be my big thing. I don't mean the book bigger, I mean over more pages. Now, here's kind of a problem. Shops and galleries. So I do craft fairs. Is there going to be, okay, there is a craft fair and art market. All right, because I think this is trying like more generally to appeal to artists, not one particular type of artist. At least that's how I felt like it was marketed. Artists who sell, like commercial artists, but not like only to fine art, only to quilters, that kind of thing. So I do appreciate that. But again, more space, or like an easy way to put in inserts. More space. I know people who do like a show every week, every month. It would just be 52, Becca. Told you, the Sjogren's and the ADHD are really rearing their heads. which is why I'm going to fill this out off camera. So I like that we spend a chunk. I think we could have like dedicated more pages, honestly. And I do think this actually needs a tab for quick going back to. And yes, I could add a tab, but you know, I think for mass production, it definitely would benefit from a tab, just so that you can quickly flip back to your 2024. And then we have a section on planning for 2025. And she kind of lays out an example of what an annual plan might look like. I appreciate that. That's really helpful for those of us with ADHD and ASD who need like a directed example. I'm looking to see if she actually provides, she has it, and then I don't see that she's provided space for this. Oh, wait. Okay, page 45. Okay, so she does. All right, that's good. And maybe the page 45 one needs a tab as well, so that you can go back to it really quickly. So if you are starting this planner, make sure you start it early. Make sure you dedicate a couple of weeks to thinking about these things and filling these things out. So here we're thinking about our customers. Here we're thinking about the possibility of being in publications. This could also extend to like anthologies. Also talks about influencers, which I do, maybe this could be its own section, you know, space them out. And that might also include podcasts, right? And then fairs and handmade markets. So she's not trying to tell you how to do this, which I appreciate. It's just giving you space to think about how you want to do it. And then here, this should definitely be bigger for some people. Some people need a lot of room, and maybe even room to sketch if you're a maker. But I really like that they want you to think about these things. Especially for somebody like me, who I have 2 degrees in art, but I am not business minded at all. And neither of my schools spent any time explaining the art business and the business of making art. They did not spend any time teaching us how to work with galleries, or I mean, sometime pitching ourselves, but frankly, the comics world has changed so drastically since I graduated from SCAD that, you know, that hasn't quite held up either. So anything that I feel really supports the business, the side that I'm really weak at, is going to be beneficial. And then here's the room for notes. Actually a good amount, although I feel like I am going to be putting the punch to use. And then here's our plan our year on page 45. Like she said, I do again think a tab here would be helpful. Oh, I love this. I love tracking progress. I'm going to struggle with this, but we use Wave to track money and other sort of things like that. So not money, but yeah, it is money, but like finances as well as what I get paid. So one thing I don't see that I would like to actually see is space about teaching. A lot of artists offer workshops. A lot of artists offer private lessons. Teaching is a big part of how I make money. So having space for that would be really helpful and important and allow me to compare all my metrics. And I do feel like that's a real missed opportunity, especially because a lot of my profit comes from teaching. Also more spaces for followers, because I don't know, I know a lot of artists were just Instagram, and like good for y'all, but like some of us are Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, and we're on Twitter. So like just having 2 spaces for social media is not and we need more room. This would have been a perfect one for a fold out. And then I do appreciate that she has included an example of, you know, some ideas for completing your action plan. So I think this is also kind of meant to be toted around with you. So I realize she may not have had this option with printing, but some pockets in the front would be super helpful. And then there's our month view. And how does it break it? This is all right. This is fine. Usually for me personally, and this is one of the things I like about Happy Planners, is that you can buy weekly inserts in all different formats. I really love like the long day by day by day, and I can just fill it with what I'm working on. But Joseph has pointed out, and he's right, I really struggle with goal setting right now because I went through a really bad bout of depression a couple of years ago that like kind of wiped out my personality. So I'm rebuilding a personality, and I'm also working on getting my anxiety under control. So like goal setting is something I'm relearning how to do. So having it encourage goals and setting up goals and thinking about goals, because when you have depression, you quit thinking about goals. You're just trying to get through the day. I really appreciate it encouraging us to think about a goal for the week, goals to get done for the day, space for notes. And I'm gonna, if I'm bumming you out talking about having ADHD and Sjogren's and depression and anxiety, that is me. That is what I'm dealing with. That is who I am. I want to make sure that my content is for people who have disabilities friendly, more accessible. And that requires being honest and talking about what I'm dealing with, what's on my plate, and what's helping and what's not helping, right? So I'm not saying that to garner pity. Please don't feel sorry for me. That makes me really uncomfortable, actually. I'm saying it because like a lot of my comic artist friends also struggle with, well, they also have ADHD or ASD, and a lot of them have depression and anxiety, right? It's just part of, you know, the kind of work we do often. So just being honest about like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm going to try out this system for organizing my thoughts. I will let you guys know if it's helpful. I'm hoping that's going to be beneficial to other comic people. And to be real, nobody that I'm aware of has released a comic planning planner. And I'm sure if I'm wrong and somebody has, let me know. I would love to try that out. Also, I know a bunch of people who would love to try that out. So if you do know of somebody, or if that inspires you to do one and it's a printable or even a buyable, let me know down in the comments. If it's a printable, I can print it out and chunk it in here, and that would be so helpful. And then we have a month, like the month in review, which I like as well. So, you know, where did you grow? What did you learn? Encouraging you to look at your analytics. It's a little scary for me because my shop has not been doing very well online. So it's like asking questions that I like should be thinking about and should be solving, but sometimes I feel like I just have no idea how to solve them. So maybe this will inspire me to dig a little deeper, ask a few more questions, and get some solutions, right? You can also share your plan if you want to. It might be really interesting to check out what other people are doing, because like that's a good way to get some ideas. And it seems like every month is a repeat of the same. I like that. No problems with that. So let's skip to December. It's fairly well made. I'm not like the biggest spiral bound planner girly. I like arc rings, but like that's not this book's fault. That's just a personal preference, and it's fairly well made. I also like it when they do a wire coating on them to make them flip a little easier. Not a deal breaker, just, you know, a preference. Okay, so now we are at December. We don't just end with December, right? We have like oh, okay. All right, so this is a bit of a complaint, and maybe she's assuming you're going to buy next year's and you're just going to do all your like brain unloading into next year's, which is not wrong, not incorrect thinking. But I do definitely wish actually that this one also had the brain, like, what did you learn? What is working for you? And that you could just copy it over into your other planner, or if it was arc bound, you could just put it in your other planner. I think that would be really helpful for people like me to kind of get some closure on the year and to get us to think about it, because it does take a while for this book to come in. It is kind of expensive, so you may not be able to afford it every year. And I think you should be able to bring what you learned from one year into the other. So basically wishing it had a wrap up at the end, you know, that makes sense to me. I can see why she didn't do it, because like, you know, you want to sell the next year's, and I respect that. Something else that I would have liked to see, and maybe I missed it, but is in October or November, an insert for like, hey, remember to order your maker's yearbook for next year. would be really helpful too, especially because I found out about her on social media through ads, and like there's no guarantee I'm gonna see her. Even if I'm following her, I'm not seeing half the stuff my friends are doing, and I know them and I really care about them. So like, just don't rely on social media to let us know about these things. I'm probably on her mailing list though, so I probably will get an email. But even that, like that physical piece of paper reminder, I know it costs a little extra, but it would be really helpful for me personally. Oh, that is my first look at the Maker's Yearbook for 2025. It is released by Nicola Taylor, who is a business coach for artists and makers at the Maker's Business Toolkit. I think this has a lot of potential for me. Obviously, it cannot work if I don't use it, but I like a lot of the questions that it's asking. I do wish there were more areas to graph things out or to make pie charts or just to visualize things a little bit more. But that might be like a personal preference on my part. That could be an inserts sort of thing that maybe I add in. But so far, I'm looking forward to it. I did have some issues closing it with the spiral binding. It did want to catch, so I'm a little concerned that it's going to get really beaten up. It is also a chonker of a book. It's a big planner, and I'm gonna try to carry it around with me, because that's how I found planners to be the most successful for me, is like when I have downtime to start thinking about these kind of things. And I do actually keep a sketchbook where I do a lot of my ideation in, so I don't know if I'm going to continue to do it in this. I kind of want everything in one place, so I may tear stuff out of my sketchbook and put it in here. I'm not really sure yet, but having it all in one spot would definitely mean I could actually think about ideas all the way through, and kind of plan things a little bit better. So we will see. Editing Becca here with Basil. So I had forgotten that it was a $70 for US buyers workbook. And I kind of feel that for $70, and I do think it's like semi-homemade, right? It's obviously small business and small batch. I feel like the build quality should have been better. I feel like there should have been pockets in the front and back. I feel like December should have had a year in review and wrap up. Maybe next steps for next year sort of goals. I feel like there definitely should have been tabs on the pages that you're going to need to reference throughout the year. And I feel like the spiral binding should have been better quality. I also feel that, you know how I mentioned, like, I wish there was like graph inserts or pie charts or just other ways to visualize information. I do feel that for $70, that should have been included. I do feel like she could have looked at some of the other products that are existing on the market and brought more of that in, especially like ways to chart your time. I think for a lot of us creatives, that is where we get kind of lost in the sauce, especially on social media. And maybe just tracking how much time we're spending on social media versus how many followers we have versus how many sales we see in our shop or visits to our website or whatever metric you're looking to fill. I think that would have been helpful. And I think for $70, that probably should have been included, because really that's like a front end kind of edition that would scale as you are selling more books. Whereas the pockets and the nicer spiral binding, which I think would have been helpful. Also like an elastic closure and maybe a bookmark would have been so nice. That would have made it more expensive per unit. You know, it doesn't scale as well as just adding in graphing paper, and not literally graphing paper, but you know what I mean. Bullets and time tracking stuff, that sort of time management stuff that ADHD people like myself definitely benefit from. So I think for $70, it's very lean and definitely needs to lean more into creative business stuff, like the stuff we just mentioned. I will see you guys again for this in, hopefully, if I remember, November of 2026, where I will have done 11 plus months, because also there's some pre-planning in the front, of using this, working it. I can talk about whether I found it beneficial for me, whether I would recommend it, what it's lacking, what I would add. And then maybe we can do the last month of it more together. Just, you know, cozy ADHD vibes up in here, that kind of thing. So for this, I will see you in a year. But if you enjoyed hanging out with me today, if you found this up your alley, if you found it helpful, useful, and informative, you really ought to consider subscribing, because I do this kind of stuff all the time here on the channel. Whether we're talking about craft fairs and preparing for craft fairs, craft with an FT, craft fairs, whether we're talking about having ADHD and living life as an artist with ADHD, whether I am reviewing influential artists and art influencers work as part of my Easily Influenced series to help you guys find art supplies and books that are honestly worth the hype and to skip the ones that aren't, or just like doing watercolor tutorials, comic tutorials, time-lapse art, and art supply reviews. I've got you covered. So it would really mean a lot to me if you join me on this adventure by clicking the subscribe button. If you want to see my art all the time, you should follow me on these social media sites. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I look forward to working on this, hopefully working on myself, hopefully building my business. And you know, I look forward to checking in with you guys in about a year, and hopefully it will be all good news. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And if you have any legitimate suggestions, I don't mind self-published if it's coming from someone who knows what they're talking about. If you have any legitimate suggestions, auto bios, whatever, from like working artists who are not just gallery artists, but like craft fair artists or like stationery artists or like comic artists or self-publishing. If you have any like memoirs, sketchbooks, that sort of thing, there's zines that you would recommend to me to get some cool ideas from, let me know down in the comments. I am currently reading Karina Gardner's Make Art That Sells. I'm actually liking it so far. I'm not super deep in, but I'm liking it so far. And I do actually take physical traditional media notes in this really cheap arc ring thing from Five Below. And I have actually been, you know, taking notes about my own business, kind of based on stuff that she's been talking about in this book. So I'm really hoping that I can kind of work these two together and just maybe make some progress in my art business. So hopefully I'll have good news to share with you guys, and hopefully you guys can see that happen in 2026. Bye, guys.